Welcome to the Connected Spirit Podcast, a space where the mystical and the human experience merge, where we explore what it really means to walk a spirit-led path. I'm Courtney Dawson, an ethical medium and mentor, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt the presence of the spirit world. But my journey hasn't been simple. It's been one of self-discovery, healing from religious and emotional trauma, navigating fear, judgment, and the loneliness that comes with embracing something the world doesn't always understand. This podcast is here to take what was once considered woo and bring it into the real lived experience of being human. Because mediumship isn't just something we do, it's who we are. Here we dive into the conversations no one else is having, breaking down misconceptions, exploring the unseen, and normalizing the journey of deep connection. We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle of being a medium. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we'll go deep. And most importantly, we'll remember who we are, why we're here, and how spirit moves through us all. So if you've ever felt something more, if you've ever questioned the unseen, or if you're simply ready to embrace the fullness of your spiritual path, you're in the right place. I grew up in a Christian home, and I was told that if I ever saw spirits that looked like loved ones that were in heaven, they were actually demons in disguise. For years, I believed it. I believed that something was deeply wrong with me until one day, everything I thought I knew about spirit is shifted. Today, I want to tell you about how fear became my teacher and how trusting my mediumship abilities completely changed my life. If you've ever been afraid of what you can feel, what you can sense, you're not broken, you're not defective. You're being invited to trust differently. I was the good Christian girl. I went to church every Sunday, midweek Bible study, did worship nights, and on the outside, I was this devoted Christian. And inside, I was completely terrified. Since I was 2 years old, I could see the spirit world, and it wasn't my imagination. I've had countless experiences with the spirit world, and one memory that comes to mind is when I was a little kid. I was about maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I was in my bedroom on the top floor of our house playing with some children. They were just as real as you until they vanished right in front of my eyes. And it petrified me, and I screamed and I started crying. My mom came rushing up the stairs and she said, "Courtney, what's wrong?" And I said, "Where did the little boy and the little girl go?" She looked around my room. She looked behind my headboard. There's nobody there. I've got countless experiences of that. And it was really difficult for me to really reconcile at a young age, yet alone when I got older and continued having those same experiences. What was happening to me, it wasn't my imagination. I was connecting to presences of spirit people. But in my family's world, there were only two things in the spirit world. There were angels and there were demons. So I learned to pray those sensations and those intuitive nudges away. But once I got into my teen years, I carried constant anxiety because if my family ever knew that I was seeing people that other people couldn't, that I knew things that others didn't, especially things that were going to happen, they'd think I was possessed, there was something wrong with me, that they would get a hold of the church and try to have a deliverance done on me. I was really, really scared. And that thought shaped my nervous system for decades, for over 3 decades. When fear hides inside your faith, it doesn't disappear, it buries itself deep in your body. As I grew up, I got married young, had my babies, and I built the life that I was told to have. I was supposed to be the good wife, have the job, buy the house, do all the things, kids, career, Sunday service, do all of it. But it was hard for me to reconcile that faith with my lived experiences because it didn't matter how much I read my Bible. It didn't matter how much I prayed. Spirit, they never left. Not only were they showing up in my house, not only were they popping up when I was at work, they were visiting in my dreams, and I literally couldn't run away from it. I didn't know who to talk to. Because in my teens and into my early 20s, there wasn't no internet, and I didn't have the language that I do today, like what a metaphysical store is. I didn't even know what my mediumship was. I didn't have those labels, right? It was very, very scary and lonely. And when I would work, I would feel energy around people, not only their energy, but spirit people, and I would completely freeze and I'd start to have a panic attack. Yeah, I dressed it up good, but I was panicking inside. And then I would think, well, what if somebody notices that I look like I'm panicking? What if somebody finds out that I know things that not everybody else does? And beyond that, that I see things that not everybody else does either. And what if I said something weird? What if I said something and it let people know Yeah, I really was different. So I kept my abilities and that inner knowing a secret. Yeah, in my family home, my mom was very intuitive, but she'd always call it prophetic gifts. But deep down, I knew my abilities were way different than just how the Christian doctrine defined it. I was terrified of losing everything if people found out, like relationships, work, even when it came to the custody of my children. I was scared. I didn't want anybody to find out. So I did what any normal person would do. I just smiled on the outside while fear was riddling the inside of my skin. It was horrible. But that's what indoctrination can do. It convinces you that silence is safety, that if you pretend you don't have these experiences, then nothing bad's happening to you. If you've ever hidden the most sacred part of yourself just to be accepted, Spirit understands. Then, after 14 years, my marriage ended. My whole world completely cracked open. My marriage dissolved. It put massive tension in my family relationships with my in laws, with my own family. It was hard on my kids. And in that moment, it did. My connection to spirit completely exploded. It was like the volume on my mediumship abilities just went up like 100x. And every night I would feel energy like moving through me, moving around me. I could start to see colors around people, and I didn't really understand even what that was. I'd hear my name being called. I was sensing energies and I would panic. I honestly, I didn't know what to do because, like, what if my ex found out? What if he used it against me? What if I really was crazy? Honestly, I was riddled with anxiety. And that changed until one night I was sitting on the floor and I just said, and I prayed, I'm like, God, if this is from you, you need to show me the truth, please. And that was my moment of surrender. One of my dearest friends, she knew a Reiki master, someone who was soft and gentle, would take the time to explain things to me. And she was somebody that became a massive figure in my life. I went from feeling like so scared about going for this Reiki session. I was trembling the whole car ride there. And then I got on the table. She started doing the Reiki. She used some essential oils. It was calm. And that panic that I was feeling on the ride there, it just started to roll away from my body. And I just felt myself being filled with like light, all of these different colors. And the energy, it was palpable. And I can honestly say, for the first time in like over 3 decades, I felt safe. And there was just this perfect peace that became my compass. And what I learned is that spirit often guides us to peace before they guide us to proof. And that peace led me to a small spiritualist church. And one night I was with a girlfriend and we went to this spiritualist church and they were doing a demonstration of mediumship. And it was incredible. But before I got to see how incredible this mediumship was, it scared the shit out of me because I was waiting for my friend to show up and I was on the outside of the church in the lineup waiting to get in. And there was a lady and her daughter, and they were walking across the street. No problem, right? Well, there was a man with them. I could see him. He was solid. He saw me. I saw him. He was talking. I could hear him. And he said, "That's my daughter and that's my granddaughter, and I need you to give a message to them." And I was scared shitless. I was like, oh my God, this is happening. This is really happening. This is the same experiences I was having since I was a little kid, but it was amplified. I couldn't really reconcile it, but I knew I needed to do something about it. So, long story short, there was a beautiful spirit artist who was doing a demonstration of mediumship. And at the very end of the evening, there was one portrait left. And he said, "That's me when I was a little bit younger." I go, "Okay. And I need you to give a message to my loved ones." And I said, "A message? I don't know how to do a message." And so I bargained with him. I made a deal. I said, "If your granddaughter and your daughter cross the street, I'll give them a message." Well, they crossed the same street at the same time as me and my friend. And I thought, oh my gosh. I said, well, nope. Only if they park beside me. What are the odds? Kid you not, God is my witness. The lady had the same make, model, and color as my car. And she had her little key fob. She pressed the button, the lights went on. And I thought, okay, I have to do this. So I went up to the lady and her daughter and I said, Hi, did you come here to have a message tonight? And she goes, Well, yeah. And I said, You were hoping to connect with your dad, your granddad. And they both go, Yeah. And I said, I'm so sorry to bother you, but he's been with me the whole night and he's wanting me to give you a message. Would you be okay with that? And they look at each other, then they look at me and they go, Yeah, of course. And then what happened was he says to me, Tell them to go back inside. That portrait, there's one left, it's me. And I did. So I waited. My friend's looking at me with her jaw down to her chest, and she's like, "What the hell's going on?" I said, I'm doing this. I have to do this." And she's not sure of what's going on because I mean, I've kept my abilities secret my whole life. They come back, sure enough, it's the portrait of their dad, her dad, and the granddad. And they said, okay, what does he want to say? So I gave them a message and I gave it as clear as I could. They cried, they hugged, they were so grateful. And it was in that exact moment I knew why I'd been put on the earth. I knew why I had all of these experiences. And my life changed, right? After that night, there was absolutely no going back. I went back to that church on the Sunday and I said, I need somebody who can help me. I need to understand what is going on. What am I? What is happening to me? What do I do with it? And I was really grateful because there were some mentors there who valued evidence and ethics. And they ended up having me sit in a circle. And I sat in a circle for 7 years and started developing my mediumship abilities. And really, at the core, understanding myself, understanding why I had these abilities and really what I was meant to do with them. I ended up going to the Arthur Findlay College in England twice. I trained there with teachers that they modeled integrity, incredible evidential mediumship. And I also learned that not all energies are harmful and that discernment and education, they dissolve fear. And then over time, the anxiety that I had, it started to fade. I left my 9 to 5. I built a spirit led practice and eventually created the Connected Spirit School, where developing mediums from all four corners of the globe can grow with structure, ethics, and trust. Through that journey, Spirit showed me 3 simple steps to move from fear into faith, and I call it the faith reconnection sequence. So let's talk about it. Step 1, we need to name the indoctrination so we can calm our nervous system. You can't rewire what you won't name. Okay. So you need to identify the belief that still lives in you. For me, it was that all spirit contact is demonic. Okay. So you need to say it out loud, ground your feet, exhale longer than you inhale, and then tell your body, I'm safe. Step 2, seek lived truth so you can have evidence and peace. Go experience it for yourself. Sit in development circle, attend a reputable demonstration of mediumship, work with a vetted mentor. Truth feels like peace and consistency, not panic, you guys. When something feels calm and loving, you need to trust that frequency. Trust the fruit. Step 3, we need to look at how do we integrate that through ethical practice? Well, boundaries, discernment, blending with the spirit communicator, specifics, not just scattered impressions that you get that don't make any sense to anybody. That's what makes mediumship evidential and trustworthy. Blending isn't the warm up, it's the work. That's how you build real, ethical, evidential mediumship confidence through repetition, humility, and trust in spirit. Now, let's take a moment and let's do an integration. Okay? Let's take a moment together, hand on heart, and ask spirit, what belief about my gifts am I ready to release today? Notice what rises. No judgment, just awareness. It's okay to be different. Your story, the good, the bad, the messy, that's the very thing that makes you powerful. And authenticity is what spirit asks of you, not perfection. Mediumship isn't hard, it's just your mind that needs the training. If this conversation spoke to you and you are ready to deepen your trust with evidence and ethics, come join us inside the Mediumship Mastery Circle. It's where we practice these steps in real time, strengthening your connection, refining evidence, and learning to trust spirit in a safe, loving community. Thank you for spending time with me today. Remember, you're not behind, you're becoming. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with another developing medium who needs this message. Spirit isn't testing you, they're trusting you. The Connected Spirit isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering of who we are, a remembering of our connection to spirit, and a remembering that we are never walking this path alone. Mediumship isn't just about speaking with spirits. It's about deepening the connection to our own spirit, to one another, and to the energy that moves through everything. So as you leave this space, ask yourself, what part of this conversation stirred something within you? What connection is spirit inviting you to strengthen? If this episode spoke to you, please share it, leave a review, and connect with me on Instagram at Medium Courtney Dawson, or visit my website at mediumcourtneydawson.com. Your presence in this community matters, because connection isn't just about what we seek, it's what we are. Until next time, trust your spirit, trust the unseen world, and trust that you are always, always connected.